Hello, everyone. This is Kristina, Business and Digital Marketing Coach. And today is from Entrepreneur Day. And I have my special guest, Lady Heather Gill. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Heather, can you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, where are you based?
Sure. Right now, I'm based out of Oregon City, Oregon, in the United States, and that's in the Pacific Northwestern part of it. Oregon is a little bit, it's between Washington and California. And my job is I'm a life coach, and I'm starting my business, and I currently study hypnosis under Dr. Terry McIver, and he has a couple of really good classes. The first one is just a beginner's course, and the second one is certification. But I do.
Heather, this is awesome, and we all met online, so that's
Yes.
really fine that you work with Dr. Terry McIver. So this is fantastic. Yeah, and I'm super happy to hear that. And Heather, what is your background? And you can share with us, why did you start doing and work as a life coach?
Okay, my background is in counseling. I have a master's degree in human services with a strong emphasis on marriage and family counseling. And in my practice as a life coach, I weave together some of my skills as a therapist with other things that I've learned through my life coaching certification classes. Like, I think that Dr. Terry McIver has also mentioned the 3 Ps, which are mind, consciousness, and thought. And I'm a practitioner of that as well. I also have a strong background in NLP, and I've mentored adults and worked with children. So I actually have a lot of really good experience with all different populations of people.
Yes, and that's fine. And when did you start your own business journey?
I would say about 6 months ago. I really started to put a lot of effort into starting a business. A lot of the companies I'd worked for as an independent contractor, it seemed like I was doing a lot of the work. So I'm sure a lot of your other guests know that I was doing a lot of the work and not really getting anywhere from that with the company itself. So I decided to try it on my own.
Yes, and from my experience, I'm in online space more than 12 years as a digital, and I run my team for the web and graphic design and digital marketing coaching. And I can see that people just, and many of my previous speakers and in this podcast, they really come from their big corporate job, and they wanted to start their own journey and their own business. And for example, if you have someone who wanted to start now, for example, business, what you can share, what is your advice for especially, and do you work mostly with women, men? And I know that you work with children, so you can share with us a little bit about this.
I work with both women and men, and my best advice to someone starting out would be to persevere. And even though it can be hard to get started and get the ball rolling, to really keep at it, because I think the world needs not only different kinds of businesses, but life coaches, and be open to different possibilities. Like it may, even if it's not going the way that you think or the way that you planned, that doesn't mean it's not going in a good direction. And to be open to other people's, advice and guidance.
Yes, and that's really awesome, because if we don't try, we have never know how it's going to be. And I think that we learn from that. sometimes we have ups and downs, ups and downs. So if we don't try, how we can know how it's going to be? Is that, I think that this is correct.
Mm-hmm. I do too. And I think I take the attitude of it's an adventure. And sometimes adventures, you know, are going along on a good track, and other times it rains, and you just have to kind of modify what you're doing, your approach, to make that work.
Yes, I agree with you, because you can be very successful, and sometimes this you can just going a little bit down, but you can go through or some mistakes or something like that, just to see when you are now and where you wanted to be. And as I said, as you said, that if we don't try and if we don't go through it, we don't know how it's going and how we feel on that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's really fine. And you also you mentioned NLP, and I know that you're in area of mental health also.
Yes.
Is that correct? So can you share with us a little bit about it and your work with kids, for example, adults, or just
Okay, sure.
For listeners who will listen to this podcast, just to know you much better.
Sure. I started out working mostly with children in what we call a lockdown psychiatric facility. And that means that they cannot be with their parents for either their behavior reasons, or their parents have problems that are so big that it's not healthy for the children to stay there. And I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then I got into working in that same field, but within the school system. And I worked with children from kindergarten all the way up to seniors in high school. And some of them had developmental disabilities, such as Down syndrome or autism. And some of them had behavior problems, like criminal behavior problems, that we helped them work through. And we also dealt with the parents at that time to help, because we found it helps to have kind of a unified front as far as what happens at school can be carried over at home, and what happens at home sometimes we can carry over at school, so that the person has a well-rounded approach where everyone's on the same page. My work with adults has been a lot of mentoring people with fairly serious mental health problems that are having difficulty managing their symptoms until they can get in to see their doctor. So for example, I might talk someone down out of a panic attack so that they can remain calm and wait for their time with their doctor. But what I love the most about being a life coach is helping people become unstuck and reminding them that there really is hope, that they can have a renewed sense of self and hope and carry that forward in their relationships and work and home.
Yes, and when you are talking about life coaching, what are people the mostly stuck? What are mostly their problems? And I believe that, and I'm sure that you help them. And for example, how do they feel before work with you, and how do they feel after working?
Well, I hope they feel a lot better after they're done working with me. But a lot of times, mostly what I see is a lot of insecurity, a lot of worries about what other people think or how they're going to manage their work life with a boss that they may not get along with. I also have people that come to me with problems with anxiety and depression. I would say anxiety and depression are the two big ones, and insecurity is a good part of both of those.
Yes, and there are many people with all those problems, anxiety, insecurity to start business or to build their relationship or any kind of that things. So yeah, and I think that we need some coach. You know, we all need coaches to move us forward. I mean,
Yes, from, it could be, people could come to see me because they have a family problem or a work problem, or they just want to grow personally and they don't know how to get started or get past a hurdle that they have or meet a goal.
yes, and I work a lot with coaches and in coaching industry, and with my guest speakers or with my clients, and we were mostly talk about sometimes what is the difference, for example, between coaching and teaching. You know, so and I think that coach just transform you, show you path how you are going to in your transition part to
Yeah, we
achieve
hope.
your goals.
Yeah, we hope. You're right. Education is a big part of it, and I think it's a very important part of it because basically we tell people or we instruct people on different avenues to where they can make their own decisions about, their insecurity. We work on it piece by piece. A lot of times we break it down into little chunks that are doable so that the person feels a certain amount of success at every step. And that in and of itself can really help break down some of the anxious or insecure feelings that they may have about themselves.
And I believe that after working with you and in the process of working with you, they feel most secure and just without anxiety or whatever may be.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, with a lot of clients, it's working on self-acceptance. You may have this set of problems, like we were saying, you might be depressed or you might have anxiety and things like that, but you also have strengths that you can use to propel yourself forward to where I think that people get caught up in thinking all of these negative thoughts about themselves when really they have certain strengths that they may not be aware of. And part of our job is to point that out and then instruct, okay, how could you use this in a business meeting? How could you calm yourself down before you go in to talk to the boss about getting a raise? And there are a lot of things we can do. I mean, hypnosis is very good for a lot of those things. It's good for depression and anxiety because it's based on relaxation a lot. And once you teach people how to access that inner calm, it makes their lives much, much easier.
Yes, and as you said, that sometimes people all around the world just think what other people saying about them. And I was talking on one podcast and I was guest speaker and say, you don't have to be, you just only need one person who support you and know what to do. So sometimes we don't need to think about, and I think that we need to think about what we are thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
And this is what we can do with mentor, with life coach, with hypnotherapist or NLP practitioner. Is that correct? I'm just
Yes, it is. I think that the more, there's a kind of the major figure in the three principles kind of revolution is Sid Banks. And, he said that there's no suffering in the present moment. When you make yourself fully present to another person, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You're not thinking about the past and all of the terrible things. that may have happened to you. You're not thinking about the future and, oh my gosh, how am I going to put my kids through college? You are just right here, right now, and focusing on what you're doing. And I think it's such a simple thing, but it's such a difficult thing at the same time, sometimes, because we get caught up in, oh, you know, like you were saying, what's Kristina thinking about me right now? Is she regretting that she asked me onto this podcast? When it really, no offense, but it really doesn't matter, because we're just having a conversation here in, you know, real time. And that's what you need to focus on.
And I'm super happy to having you as my guest speaker. You know, as you can see how I'm smiling and, you know, just asking you and sharing ideas and brainstorming in some way. And
Yeah.
as you said, I think that we just need to think about the present moment and to be focused on that, I think. And this is, you said, 3 principles. And can you share a little bit with us what are 3 principles? I know that Dr. Terry McIver is also a practitioner of trainer 3 principles, but just can you share with us? It's about what mind, divine mind, something like that. But you are much more experienced with this. I'm not. I'm still learning, to be honest.
I think it's something that we all continually learn in practice. Mind, like you said, is universal mind. Some people call it God. Some people call it the grand designer of the universe. It's basically something that's bigger than you and that you can rely on absolutely. And it doesn't have to be religious. It could be spiritual. It could be however, you know, it could be the Native Americans here call it the Great Spirit. So that's basically mind. Consciousness is the idea that we're aware that we think in ways that other species aren't. Like we inside, you know, that voice or internal dialogue that you have with yourself, that is a part of your inner consciousness. And it tells you things like, you know, you're going to do great today, or, oh, don't forget to mention blah, 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 whatever it is, you know, and so you get all caught up in these, you know, these things. And then thought is just what it says, it's thought. And we believe that you can't really control what thoughts come into your head, but you can control what you focus on. And that's a big part of what we do. You know, you could come into a discussion with somebody with sort of you know, all of these negative thoughts swarming around in your head, or you can say, okay, I'm going to let those thoughts float on by, just like the cloud, or I'm going to, you know, visualize blowing those away and just try and focus on what we're talking about right now. And it's so simple that it's difficult for people to really believe, because they think they need to, like, for example, I'm a big believer in cognitive behavioral therapy. And that means that you work on somebody's thoughts and their behaviors together. For example, you know, with anxiety, you know, what do you do when you're anxious? Do you smoke a whole bunch, or do you drink a whole bunch, you know, and then the behavior that results from that. You work on both ends. And I like that, but a lot of people think that technique is a bad idea. I kind of disagree, because I think as life coaches or therapists or teachers, we need to use everything we have, all of our skills, to benefit the person we're with who's struggling. And I think that's what a coach's job really is to aid people who are struggling and give them the gift of hope. Because sometimes just being there with somebody is enough when they're upset. You don't even necessarily have to say anything. That just the fact that there's another human being beside them, or like we are talking on Zoom, can be enough. Because it seems like we're so disconnected, especially young people, because their whole life is in some ways pretend on the internet. And I think that we need to come together and support each other and help if we can. And if we can't, we refer them to somebody who can help better and explain that we're not abandoning them. We're just saying that this is the limit of my expertise. And this person
Yes,
knows.
and we are human beings, just either that we work online, but we are human beings and we all have chance to meet in person and speak in person and get credibility and everything. As you said about thoughts are not our reality because we have many thoughts over the day. Is that correct? So yeah, and this is really fun. You know, I love that. I really love what you do, and you explain and share an amazing story because for listeners who will listen that there's I think that they will be very satisfied with your story and what you do.
I hope so, because we're all in this together. And I think that we need to maybe not take life so seriously, because it's another thing we talk about in the 3 Ps is it's not personal. Life just is. It goes on. We decide what we want to take on to ourselves. And sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's not. And when it's not, we all need help.
Yes, and I mentioned and told many times that my job is my passion, is my life, is my journey, is my dream. And I love what I do really. And I'm super, I feel always, because I love to speak to people. I do international job and I'm traveling in front of my computer all around the globe. For these 12 years, I met amazing people who helped me not only in a business area, they help me in sometimes in health issues. They share their stories or connect and refer some people who can help me. Or what is beauty of this job is that sometimes my clients and my guest speakers or other people, they ask me on many questions when I was researching answer, or they just saw that I have other skills.
Yes.
They discover my skills, which I didn't know that I had them. And this is really connection. And I love to connect and, just as I connected with you. And this is really awesome. And I'm super happy to speak to you today, really.
I enjoy it too. And you asked me what drew me to this field, and it just popped into my head. What drew me to this field is I love hearing people's stories. Like if I call a taxi because to take me somewhere, I'll have somebody just open up and tell me everything about themselves. And I love that. I'm so honored that people trust me with their problems, and to me, it's a very sacred trust, and I wouldn't betray that. And I just love hearing about other people's experiences.
And this is interaction. When we interact with the human being all around the globe.
Yeah.
So for people, I think that you work online as well, and you work on international markets. So how people can reach out to you? Just I will put your website or pages, link to your business pages. And what is your favorite platform, social media, maybe Facebook, LinkedIn, just that people can reach out to you or connect with you?
Well, if you want to see some of what I'm about, probably Facebook is best. I know people are going, oh, Facebook, but it is the best for me. I've helped several people on a website called The Mind Journal. And I have my own page called Support for People Who Are Worried About the Pandemic. And you could just scroll down there and see. I also contribute on a mental health forum called Quora and Wiki Expert. My personal business webpage is www.heathergilllifecoaching.com. And I'm also on Boxer. I just started that today, so pretty proud of that.
It's really fine.
But
And
you can reach me on Messenger too.
yeah, it's very awesome. And Heather, there are many questions today, and we can speak, but because of time framing, and can you share do you have any, and I asked you for a message for people who wanted to start business and or on this call today, but also, can you share some, let's say, final message to people who will listen to, for listeners who will listen to this podcast, just to encourage them to start business or to connect with you if they have anxiety or mental health problems, or they need life coaching or something like that?
Sure. I would say to people who are thinking about starting their business to try it. I would go online and probably research different things about, because the laws are different, here, even state by state, and probably that's different from Europe or wherever you might be. Just be sure you know what the legalities are, so that you don't get into trouble further down the road. A lot of people take out business insurance. The thing I would say on a more personal level is, life is short. If you have a dream and you feel like you have something to add, anything, it could be selling motorcycle parts, or it could be, reading poetry that you wrote, whatever it is, make it happen. And sometimes it takes a long time, and to not be discouraged by that. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like anything else. You have to really work for it. And I would say to people who are suffering that there is help out there, that you don't have to do it alone. I answer questions from people all the time on the websites and different platforms that they're scared like you, and that they're just looking for somebody to hold their hand. And but if you come to me, I'm not going to solve all your problems. I can help you work towards solving your own problems, but I can't do it for you. I can give you the skills and I can give you the support, but I can't do it for you, because that's part of your journey. Just like this is my heart and part of my journey.
Heather, it was lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank
For being
you.
my guest speaker. It's so lovely, and I'm super excited having you today. And you shared an amazing story. And for all your listeners who will listen, just connect with Heather. She can help you a lot.
I hope so.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't worry, be happy. Thank you so much. And I think that we will talk again very soon.
So
have a fantastic day, and see you soon, and bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.